Good afternoon, and welcome to Gator's Garage, the home of all things historical gaming in the wonderful city of Savannah, Georgia. We're here again today with our buddy Randy to talk about version 3 and our recent tournament that our club just finished here in Savannah, our last version 2 tournament event, although we're thinking about maybe playing it some more version 2 while we wait on version 3 to drop. So, Randy, say hi to the folks.
Good day, everybody.
Hey, hey. So, I guess getting started, Randy, we want to talk about the elephant sitting on the room, the latest intel update from Warlord Games, talking about close combat. And I got to tell you, um, when I first played Bolt Action, I guess it's first edition, and I did close combat. Um, it honestly put me off the game when I first played it. It was the reason I didn't. I kind of set it on the shelf for a while. I was actually one of the original sergeants and had the original two-player starter set, but that close combat just just seems so brutal and so final, But then I came from Warhammer, a little bit of Warhammer, and then Lord of the Rings, where you come together in close combat and you might lose a few guys, but that was it. But boy, close combat in Bolt Action has always been all or nothing, and initially it put me off, but now again, now I understand a little more what they're trying to do. It makes a large amount of sense. Now, you came in with version 2, didn't you?
Yeah. So I didn't see
All
version.
the and all the way in. You've been playing for a while, and how many armies do you have now?
Uh, Four. Yeah. So you see,
Good deal.
no, I got three. Yeah.
Okay,
I had
I've
a
got
Russian
three.
army and I got rid of it.
Okay, I've got British, Germans, and Americans. Although I'm longingly looking at the French just because they're cool. So, Bolt Action Third Edition, a month away. If you've not pre-ordered from Gator Games yet, you need to make sure we have enough on hand to get to everybody. And we've got it at 15% off of retail already because that's what we do. Also, starting the video here, do the YouTube things. Click like, click share to your friends, share to your game groups, and support the channel as you can, please. Thank you. All right, Randy. So tell us your thoughts on close combat here coming into version 3.
Yeah. So this is one of the intels that I was really looking forward to seeing because I play Gurkhas, and of course Gurkha's main function is close combat. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I was really interested in what they were going to change and how it would affect my guys playing. And it's gotten a little more even keeled. So you can't just like jump on somebody out in the open and just obliterate them. It's probably more realistic actually in the way close combat would have worked in World War II.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I know as I was watching, as I was reading it and hearing some discussions, um, open ground should always have been a straight up fight because you jump on somebody in the open, they're going to see you coming, and so I like that. In the new rules, if they're defending a barrier, defenders are going to get to strike first, which again is really a little bit more consistent with what I've seen in other games as well. I know bolt action is its own thing, but I kind of like that. What do you think, Randy?
Yeah, I mean, if realistically too, if you think about it, if you're trying to climb over a wall and hit somebody, they're going to hit you first before you get to
Right.
swing on them. Yeah, so a classic example of that would be like Lord of the Rings, where they were trying to attack Helm's Deep. How many guys did they
Exactly.
lose trying to scale the wall?
Oh my gosh, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, the defenders, if they're defending a barrier, they're going to have a lot of advantages, and so you can charge them 1-to-1, but the reality is the defender's probably going to win that. So you're going to need to hit. You'll have to hit them in waves, which is really interesting, or try and turn that flank. May cut down on close combat a little bit because we've gone from attacker strikes first and then both strike when there's a defended barrier because that's how it used to be.
yeah,
And even that really didn't give the defender a great advantage for being on a barrier. So
No, not really.
personally, being having been on the receiving end of your Goram Gurkhas, I'm kind of glad to kind of glad to see that.
Yeah.
Procedures
So
not changed. Go ahead.
yeah. So really, I mean, I've never understood the in open ground attackers going first because it's like, yeah, I'm just going to stand there and let you hit me, and then I'm going
Yeah,
to try to swing back afterwards. That just didn't make any sense to me at all.
yeah. We were talking, and I don't think we're going to see that mechanic here. Of course, we'll have to see when we look at the quick reference cards. But I know we play black powder as well, and one of the things we like about black powder is the attacker and defender both strike, but the attacker gets a +1 to his die roll
Yeah.
if it's in the open. And now that makes an amount of sense. I've got my bayonets fixed and I'm coming in and you're receiving the charge. You're going to literally be a little back footed, but you're certainly not going to just sit there and let me poke you with my pokey bayonet or chop your head off with my shovel or whatever all other nastiness I'm going to choose to do in close combat.
Yeah.
So, and that's what the book talks about here. The review talks about here. Basic situation, unit declares the charge. Important thing here. Um, there's a couple important things actually that have been tweaked on the charge. First of all, you've got to declare the charge before you measure, and I think that's always been the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's entirely possible that you could declare the charge, measure, and then not be able to make the charge.
Very
And
important, because especially with the way point blank is going to work in version 3, you end up
yep,
short. Um, they're going to unload on you out in the open, and you're going to be in
yes,
big trouble.
exactly. And I'm looking to see if it's here or not. One of the new things they're going to say is that you cannot declare a charge. I think it's going to be in basis to morale, which I think we're going to talk about maybe further down here. Um, the Japanese and maybe the Gurkhas and some of the other real melee heavy armies are no longer going to be able to do their special charge rule if they don't have a reasonable expectation of reaching their enemy. So, like I think you were playing against the Japanese. One of the things you commented Saturday was they just kept coming, and part of
Yeah.
the reason they were able to do that is they could declare that charge even though you were hitting them with long range fire. They're just going to punch through it. That's going to change, and I
Yeah.
think that's going to be a more realistic feel.
Well, yeah, they have to pass an order test now, I believe, to do it, and then
Yep.
if they fail it, I think the Japanese are allowed to make an assault on something within 12 inches or some. They get to re-roll it, is what it is, and then they can.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, I don't know. So the other thing here is we were talking about barriers, but
Yeah.
they call it defensive position rules. So there's obviously a
Yep.
rule in the book that will completely detail what the defensive positions are, whether it's if you're in the woods or if you're behind a barrier or if you're in a house, you know. So we'll have to wait and see what that is.
Yeah. They have this quote here, of course. Whenever the assault of the enemy has gone across obstacles or rough ground. Oh, well, here it is, Randy. Whenever the assault of the enemy has gone across obstacles or rough ground, or when the defender is being fought across an obstacle, the defender has the advantage of readying themselves for the onslaught and can place a few blows of their own as the enemy makes its way across the terrain. So I think in answer, so Randy and I were discussing this morning, okay, what do you do if you're defending in the woods? Well, I think if your unit is at the edge of the woods, taking shots out, and they're of course not modified, um, and you get close assaulted, it's going to be fought just like if you were in the open.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if
that
you're
makes sense.
deeper in the woods, which I think is farther than 1 inch in,
Yep.
you're getting a negative modifier for shooting out. You're shooting out against a covered enemy. Well, then the attacker coming at you is having to charge across rough ground. So
Yeah,
they're gonna have to advance instead of run, and then you're also going to be able to get those first swings at them pretty clearly right here. Obstacles or rough ground. So, Randy, I think that kind of answers
yeah.
that question.
Well, yeah. So that's if the assaulting unit has to go across obstacles or rough ground.
Yep.
Um, so if the assaulting unit is in woods, they can only go. Obviously, they're going to only be able to go 6 inches, right? And then
That's right.
The defender is going to go first. So you're going to really have to be careful how you issue a
Right.
charge.
Yes. Yeah. And to your point, if you got two units in jungle or woods, and one of the units decides to attack, yeah, that defender will swing first. So this is man, this is why I would recommend to everybody once you get your rule book from Gator Games, but once you get your rule book, put that thing in your bathroom, man. It's gonna be a lot of homework. So
Yeah.
fantastic. Um, so yeah, it's gonna really dial in. I think the feeling was that uh, there was a lot more close combat going on in bolt action than you necessarily saw, certainly in open battle situations in World War II. Now, Stalingrad, um, Manila, uh, Kursk, not Kursk, but Kharkov, yeah, you had some places where the fighting was up, Metz, where the fighting really was up close and personal. Oh, yeah, Arnhem, so there you'd see a lot of close combat, but most other times, these guys are going to let their rifles do their talking for them.
Yeah. So the
So
one way
that's pretty cool.
to force a defender to go simultaneous when they're in terrain or on an obstacle is to try to make them go down. Because if they're
Yeah,
down, it'll be simultaneous, and they can't fire back either.
right.
So if that's where it may be AHE shot ahead of time will make them want to go down, and then you hit them with the
Right.
assault.
So, hey, tip of the hat to our friends over there at Warlord. If you think about it, and Randy, you were in the military, and of course, I've read a lot of it. But this is the whole purpose of fire. It's not necessarily to kill the opponent as much as put their heads down while you move into a position to do even more harm. So
Yeah.
your preparatory fire, one or two units that fire first to put some pins on these guys, and maybe force them down is going to be helpful. And of course, now that's the other thing. If you put a couple pins on a unit and then you're moving across the open to get to them, they're going to get a +2 when they shoot. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely laying down fire on a unit before you assault it's going to be critical.
Yeah. So if
That's pretty cool.
anybody that doesn't know the American doctrine of fire and maneuver, was they had fire teams, and
Yep.
one fire team would provide suppressive fire while the other one advanced. And
Right.
when they were in position, they would provide suppressive fire while the next one advanced until they can get a unit that can assault while the enemy's pinned down.
Just so.
Yeah.
And you can model that for both the Germans and well, I guess the Germans, Americans, and British were all very, very good at using half squads, and that is very easy to model in
Hmm.
bolt action. And I think it's going to remain so. You can build a squad that's a sergeant and five guys. And to be honest, if you look at the costs, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Especially with the way machine guns have gone down in cost, you could throw a light machine gun in a 5-man unit and use
Yep,
it to pin down another unit.
right. Or even have two units with lights.
Hmm.
One's firing while the other's maneuvering, or one has both the light machine guns. Maybe five guys with the two light machine guns, and then the other quote unquote half squad, is a maneuver element equipped with either submachine guns or even just rifles. But they're your maneuver element. So some things to think about. I think maybe it sounds like it's going to reward real world tactics even more.
Yeah.
Everybody, I think, is getting a hint that cover is going to matter a lot more.
Yeah. So the one thing that will be different, you're going to see a lot less close combat. People are going to be hesitant to jump
Yep.
in, especially if the unit that you're assaulting is either veteran or tough fighters,
Yeah.
because tough fighters are going to get the reroll every swing that they miss, which is
They'll
huge.
get to reroll misses. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you get 3 hits. Now you're going to reroll 7, and you're probably going to get 5 to 6 wounds every time you assault.
Yep. Yeah. And again, you don't have to wipe out the entire enemy unit in the first initial round. You just got to get more hits than who you're hitting.
One more.
And
Yeah.
this is the thing that'll make you pull your hair out. You only got to get one more. And I've seen melee where, two 5 or 6 man squads or 8 man squads go at it. One kills two and the other kills one, and the 8 man unit that only lost 2 guys is the one that gets beat. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely going to be risky business. Thank you. I think I'll stick with my BARs and light machine guns and kill you at range if
gonna
I
be
have my say about it. But
um,
there you go.
another
Go ahead,
change.
Randy.
Engineers. So
Yeah,
engineers are going to ignore the defensive positions rule.
right.
So if you have a squad of veteran engineers with body armor, or, submachine guns, they're going to be real effective at getting somebody out of a building. I think it only
Right.
works against the building too. So if it's across a barrier, it doesn't matter. But if the other unit's in a building, then you know,
Boy, and that makes sense. I know one of our favorite ways for digging people out of buildings and squad leaders, flamethrowers and satchel chargers. And that's the other thing. Your engineers are going to be coming in with flamethrowers. So again, you
well, we
take your
don't know
engineer
that.
squad and
We don't know that
oh,
yet
I would
because if you look at the composition, they uh,
right,
they have the squads, and then they have 3 flamethrower teams as separate entries. So are the squads going to be able to take one as well? If so, that's a lot of flamethrowers. Um,
yeah. I would imagine not, but you do have the flamethrower teams.
mhm.
And again, you move them up. They do the flame, and flamethrowers are flamethrowers affected by movement?
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But you move your flamethrower team up, you flame the guys that you're going after, and you'll probably still get your what 1d6 or 1d3 pins, Randy,
D3 plus.
currently.
It'll be
D3.
D3
So now you've got,
plus
you
one.
know,
It's
yeah,
D3
yeah.
plus one. So
Wow. Yeah. So now you're getting a couple of pins on these guys. And then you move your assaulting team in, and again, now the defender's shooting with a +2. So again, it's that all about that, move up, fire, and maneuver. One of the rules we haven't talked about that's going to be important is going to be ambush. What's the answer to all this stuff? Well, you throw a unit on ambush to cover that open ground to make those engineers think twice before they move. So that's going to be important. All
yes,
right.
the Gurkhas will still be. Actually, I really believe they've gotten better in this version, even though it's going to be simultaneous. They've still retained their scary blighters, and they've got tough fighters. Which, if you try to take submachine guns in a squad, I believe they're 4 points apiece now.
Wow.
So it gets real expensive to make a squad that's not tough fighters, and Gurkhas get it for 1 point. So
Mm,
they're
mm.
going to be strong.
Okay.
I
And then
wouldn't be afraid of
what
taking the defensive. Let them swing first because they're only going to swing with half, and then I'm going to swing with everything I got. Uh,
because you're scary blighters.
Scary blighters, and I think the new special rule for me might be tough as boots, where I'll get 3 extra
Right.
swings. So
Okay.
that'll give me even more chance of wiping the enemy out.
Gurkhas are still going to Gurk.
Yeah, I think they're going to sell a bunch of Gurkhas.
Yeah, I think I'm going to probably put a couple of the metal boxes in my stock.
Oh,
And
speaking of
I've
that,
I've already heard people say, "Gee, I hope they do a plastic box."
well, no, I've seen resin Gurkhas. They're from Warlord. They're
Right.
called Far East Gurkhas,
Yep.
and they're
Got them.
resin models. Have you seen those?
Yeah, they're resin instead of metal. They're
Yeah,
still about. I want to say they're still 10 for 40.
yeah. It's like $37 or something. It's about.
Right.
It works out the same if you get a box of metal ones, or you get 20 for 70 something dollars. So it's the same cost. It's just one's metal and one's resin.
Yeah. Resin's nice because it's lighter.
Hmm.
It can be a little more fiddly to work with, and I've had some issues with some other resins.
I would
Warlords are usually
like the
pretty good.
resin because what you
Yeah.
do, the problem I've had with my metal ones is they're top heavy, so they tip
Got
over
it.
real easy. But if you get the resin ones and you put a metal washer on it for the base,
Yep.
now they're real solid. They don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So good modeling tip there, and that's true for almost any of your models. If you want your plastic models to have a little more heft, just throw a washer underneath, and then they've got a little bit more weight to them. It's good reminder there, Randy. So close combat's coming. Gurkhas are still going to be nasty. Engineers are going to be even more useful.
Yep.
Um, we'll just have to see how it goes. I just thought about something, and I don't know that anybody mentioned it as a want list, but they really should allow engineers to lay smoke. That traditionally was something engineers did. Ask me how I know. But that would be kind of cool to let. I don't even know if it's in the book, but it would sure be cool.
Yeah,
I
honestly,
know.
I think any squad should be able to do it because guys carried, smoke grenades with them,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
different
That's
colors.
always a challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's always a challenge once you introduce obscurants. Everybody will throw them all over the board, and the next thing you know, nobody's wanting to move until the smoke's out, and then the smoke's out, and you can't see nothing.
well,
So
yeah,
yeah,
especially now that being in the open so dangerous. If you can lay smoke, that's going to be really, really good tactic.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. I don't know. I have no idea if they brought that in, but be nice to see it if it's there. All right, guys, that's our segment on version 3. As always, if you've got questions, drop them in the comments below. Either me or Randy will give you an answer. Or somebody in the chat may give an answer. That also helps the algorithm. It helps promote the video. But above all, we are here. What Gator is about, and what the channel is about, is one more source of having good conversations about our gaming. So the next thing we want to talk about is our awesome tournament that we had this weekend. Let me
Yeah,
drop that.
we had a
And
good
again,
turnout.
I got to give Randy a tip of the hat. He usually kind of keeps a boot in my backside. All right, Baker, have you called everybody? Got the lists up? Ready? Ready? Uh-huh. So yeah. Thanks again, Randy, for being a good assistant TO
Yeah,
and all your help pulling this together. I gotta say, I think everybody had a great time. I saw lots of smiling faces.
we had a
So
couple
we
new
did.
players show up, which was awesome. New players.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Not necessarily new bolt action players, but new players.
yeah,
So that was our crew, and we had 8 tournament players, and one of the things we had 12 players total. Um, One of the things we like to do when we're putting an event on, especially if we put it on at the church, which has so we can meet at our my local church, a live church. They let us borrow the fellowship hall, and we easily got room. I think Randy didn't we run a doubles tournament that had like 14 people or something like
oh
that
yeah, and it's
on our
huge,
doubles.
really.
Yeah,
To be honest, you had that secondary room that if you really had to, I mean, you could probably put 20 tables in this place and run a
that's
tournament
right.
with 20 tables. I
Yeah,
mean, there's tons of room.
yeah. And the church is always good to let me use it. They just asked me to give them a little lead time. We're starting to get a little busier as a church body, so that we may have less time when we can maybe grab it. But I'll touch base on that in just a minute. But so we had a dozen people. Only 8 played the tournament. The other 4 just played some learning games.
Yeah,
And one of my buddies came from Barnwell, South Carolina. He just hadn't had a game day, and he ran a couple of teaching games for a couple of new guys playing bolt action. And I think when a club puts on an event like this, I think it's important to throw a couple tables to the side so people have some room for open gaming, whether it's whatever game is being played tournament that day or whatever game people bring in. And I always tell people that if the Savannah Gaming, if the Savannah Gaming one more time, if the Savannah Garrison's meeting, then we will have plenty of stuff for whatever we're hosting. Even for the tournament, Randy and I could have made loaner armies available. In fact,
yeah,
Randy loaned an army to one of the participants, which was awesome.
yeah.
But also, it's open play. We always have open tables where you can come run a game. Obviously in the church, we want to keep it more venue appropriate. Probably don't want any dragons or wizards showing up. But other than that, it's historical group. So we're looking for things like obviously bolt action, black powder, flames of war, saga, just kind of keeping in that same theme. But it is open and it's available. There's no charge, and we provide tablecloths, terrain. We've even got a developing bit spin that I'm going to make available at our meeting. So if you need a bit, you can take one. You got some bits you want to donate, you can donate those too. So there's a lot going on with the club, and that's part of what makes these tournaments work. Is we get so many people from behind the club that really support us. So this was our happy crew, and let's see, I actually went the wrong way, Mr. Randy. We're gonna, we'll just go this way, I guess. Back up a little bit. There we go. So there's our club banner,
Yep.
the Savannah Garrison. And of course, it was a bolt action tournament, second edition. Had 1,250 points per player, 8 players, and honestly, it was it was wide open. Randy, I think you took pretty much full advantage of that, didn't you?
Well, I tried to. I got nerfed a little bit on one of the things that you wouldn't let me take a bunch of free stuff. So, uh,
Yeah,
but I brought a SAS Northwest Europe theater selector that you don't normally get to play. So,
yeah, good call. And that's something too. I know, like I tend to run. I'm building a Panzer Grenadier or a mechanized Panzer Fallschirmjäger unit, and I'm building it just because I want to. Is it going to be competitive? I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you, I've won tournaments with my Fallschirmjägers, so there we know the Fallschirmjägers do well. The half tracks eat up a few points, but they're also an armored machine gun that you can lay back and lay cover with. So again, that was really great. Um, we had lots of prize support from Warlord Games. We appreciate that a lot, and from War Games Atlantic.
yeah.
So the two biggest names in bolt action miniatures gaming provided support for us, and that was just amazing. Tip of the hat to John Russell. Tip of the hat to Tom Chapman, the guys that kind of helped pull this together as far as prize support. Everybody walked out with at least a sprue of troops, and many folks got a sprue of troops and even some additional goodies. The centerpiece of any tournament other than the Army list is the tables. And I've heard some horror stories about some tournaments where it's like there wasn't hardly any terrain. I don't think you'll ever have that complaint on one of our tables.
No, no,
um,
we've got some really good tables, and they'll all be quite thematic. They'll tell a story when you look at them.
yeah. Now, Randy, you had me make some adjustments to this destroyed village. What was your concern when I first put the terrain down?
Uh, let's see. Was it the roads? There was
You wanted to
something.
make sure that we had some room that wheeled vehicles could make their way across the
Yeah,
table in
that's what it
some
was.
path.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because most of this rough ground, the wheeled vehicles were, so if somebody came in with, everything's on wheeled instead of track, they're going to be stuck.
right, right.
Yeah, so
So good call
we
there.
moved a couple pieces of terrain around to allow
Yep.
some avenues for wheels.
Yeah, yeah. Just as a further commercial here, the creators from Games Workshop. Some of the buildings are actually from my old Lord of the Rings collection, and then the full color buildings are from Miniature Building Authority from their Euro Village line. Let's see.
Yeah,
The jungle table.
yeah. This is getting better and better. I keep adding a few things to it as we go along. Um, I got the homemade hut there, and I'd
Yeah,
still
you
like to
need
see a
you
little
need to
bit
make it.
more terrain on it. There was some complaints about the river. We probably should have told them to just flat ignore those little streams because the the guy who got it on this side basically couldn't run across it and make any kind of a charge.
I hear you. Yeah, that makes sense. Or yeah, they're both. Now that I
Well,
look at the map, both the creeks are pretty much this side of the table.
to that point
But
too,
if you
it was Japanese wanting to do their bonsai and just make runs across the table no matter how they were pinned up.
well, I hate it for them. Well, here's the thing: if you cross over toward the upper right hand part of the table there, the
Yeah,
rest of it's fairly open for you to move your troops through. So I
yeah.
hear you. Um, but it is jungle terrain, and both. If you read the histories, the Japanese struggled in the jungle as much as the Americans did, and so
And
yeah,
that's where
I think it's
transports
fine.
come in handy too, because if I'm seeing this and I have a transport, I'm putting my guys in the transport and I'm going to move it up to the creek. And then when they get out, they're going to be running straight away out of that truck. So they'll get that
That's right.
movement.
Yeah. Of course, you run that LVT, and it just doesn't care. It's going to
Oh,
grind across everything and then drop them off.
and it's so big. So you can technically gain yardage by its size, because you're not coming out of the back of it, you're coming out of the front of it, which doesn't really make sense. But you know, so you got a vehicle that's like 9 inches long, it moves 9 inches, and then the guys run out of it 12.
That's a fair point. Yeah,
And
it is
Bo
one of
Mortensen,
the tweaks, the ground scale versus figure scale.
yeah. So Bo Mortensen had a theory on, because he runs LVTs, and like in a scenario where you deploy 12 inches in,
Yeah.
or even a quarter table where you deploy in the quarters, he said put your guys in the truck, and when you deploy it sideways at the edge of where you can be, because when you pivot,
Okay.
you pivot on the center, so you're going to gain 3 or 4 inches just by that pivot before you even move, because the front of that
Wow.
LVT is going to push forward, and then you move, and then the guys come out, so you're going to gain extra inches.
Yeah, you can make one pivot at any point in your move, and that's your one pivot.
Yeah,
Okay. Sneaky.
yeah,
All right. So that's our jungle board.
yeah.
This
There we
is a
go.
nice quiet village before all the hooligans show up.
Yeah, and a couple vehicles ran into some trouble here. I usually,
Right.
it has 3 roads on one side, so I always block 2 roads so it's not uneven for somebody.
Yeah, I
Normally you see
appreciate
some
that.
bocage on this, but we kept it to hedgerows because it's a fairly dense
That kept
board.
things
You really don't need all that, but
right. And I noticed that you've got I think some home built terrain there as well as one of the micro arts printed buildings. So
yeah. So there's a 3D
looks
printed,
great.
a couple 3D printed
Mhm.
buildings. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I love
Cool.
that micro art studio. That is just, they're awesome buildings.
They
Just
really are. They
yeah,
really are. And I'm just about sold out. I've actually got a reorder. I was looking at my inventory today. It's been an item that gamers have really appreciated.
hmm
They get, especially if they come to an event and they actually get to pick up the MDF package and look at it, and even more so if they actually see the items on the table.
yeah,
And the I've said destroyed village. That's actually the forest there.
yeah.
As a
Forest.
change. Yeah. Oops. But yeah, so the forest there, you see that we've got three houses there. Again, there's more of those miniature building authority houses, all four of them. Um, and then just a lot of woods. And again, if you look at our look at how we were theming it, we were really trying to really give a good flavor and a good variety on each board. We didn't do the desert board this time, um, just because we didn't really need to, and we didn't do a snowboard this time.
Yeah,
But that and the desert board's a lot of work. We got to put we almost literally have to build it up from scratch. Same thing with
yeah.
the
'Cause
snowboard's not quite so bad because Randy uses a snow cloth. But yeah, so
yeah,
that
with
was
the
the last
desert,
one.
Mike, with
Yeah.
the desert, we've got to bring out the geohex, and that in itself is, a lot to carry, and then you got to stack everything just right with the geohex to get it.
Yep.
Yeah,
But we always get compliments on our boards. People really like them.
yeah,
So yeah, not the destroyed village, but the forest. Excuse me, the forest. And finally, there's our happy crew there. Had folks from just all over the place: Georgia, South Carolina. So two states represented here, so that's pretty cool.
yeah,
That was our tournament. If you're watching this and you came, thank you. If you're watching this and you didn't come, be watching for our next one, which I think is going to be in October. Just be watching for it, and probably be a version 3 tournament at the end of October. Um, Savannah will be doing an escalation league for version 3. We're going to learn infantry week 1, artillery week 2, armor week 3, and special rules week 4, and then we'll do our tournament. So the idea is to take a layered approach to learning the thing, so that you can get a real good feel for how your stuff should be running before you jump into a tournament situation. All right, let's see here. And it wouldn't be a Randy and Mike. So far we've covered version 3 updates
yeah.
and the tournament. Randy, got anything else to say about the tournament?
Yeah. So I would say that the guy I loaned the army to did better than I did. He played a Market Garden uh, platoon for Americans, and he did pretty well with it. So my SAS didn't do too well, um,
Yeah.
and because the SAS are so expensive, I was short on infantry numbers wise, and then we ran into two scenarios that had 5 objectives each. And since you need infantry to cover objectives, it became very hard for me to get on top of objectives. It was a struggle,
Wow. Yeah.
especially against Japanese horde. That was they just kept coming.
There's just acres and acres of those fellas.
Yeah,
But Randy's not had enough abuse yet. He's going to go play in the Hurricon tournament,
yeah.
and he's taking a bit different list. And we
But this,
didn't get time to put these on slides yet, so
yeah.
pardon the squinto vision. So Randy, tell us a bit about your list here.
Well, this isn't mine. This came to me from I think his name's Alex, um, down in Florida. He's part of the Florida team, and David Surkamp sent me his list, and I think all their lists have been sent to us at one point just for us to look them over. It's a charity event, so it's kind of friendly. But this is what he's got: French reinforced platoon, 14 order dice is the cap, and 1,000 points. So standard second lieutenant, inexperienced. Singles, trilliers, how do they pronounce that?
Colonial troops.
Is that what they are? Yeah, for a better word. So they are tough fighters. So that's kind of interesting. 7-man tough fighter unit.
And they were.
Yeah, so 77 points. We'll see how that goes. They're regular. I don't know that I would be assaulting with regular troops. I think you're just asking for a heartache there.
Pile of dead bodies.
Yeah, yeah. But it might make them more survivable if they get assaulted, trying to defend an obstacle or an objective. Yeah. French Foreign Legion. So these guys, there's 8 men. They're veteran. All rifles. They're stubborn. Probably not going to be assaulting with these guys either, but they're just going to be hardy. They're going to be able to stay out there and just keep shooting. If they get hit by
no light machine guns in either squad. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, version 2 you just don't see it, but I think in version 3, I think you're going to see light machine guns make a resurgence because they've dropped in cost, and with the shooting being a premium now, putting shots on people, I think the light machine guns are really going to help out.
Right.
And medium mortar, inexperienced, so no spotter. Going to have line of sight.
Yeah. So, see, I think it'd be worth it to pay for the experience and get a spotter.
Yeah,
that's where indirect really is valuable.
Yeah, the American way of playing the mortars and actually the English players is regular with a spotter, but a lot of the other European players they'll run them just like this, inexperienced, just to save points. But you really need to love them if you're going to do that, because one of these is going to die. I can guarantee you.
Yes,
it's going to get shot up. And medium artillery, medium howitzers. So he's got one he's paid for and the free one. Enjoy it while you got it, because it won't be there in version 3.
That's right. All the freebies are going away.
They're gone. There ain't no more free stuff. So that's
you know, yeah, listening on the Warlord podcast the other day, and they make a fair point. This isn't a 1,000-point list. This is a 1,075-point list.
Yep.
And again, I've always argued, I think if free anybody, I think the Russians made sense to have a free green troop. or green troops should cost the Russians less. We haven't even seen the points cost yet for the new version.
Yeah.
But even at that, you're still spotting the Russians however many 10 green free troops, which is
No, they
nothing to
get more
sneeze
than
at.
that. It's like a 12 or 13 man squad that they get that's free.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's quite a few
And
points.
equipped with anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So dude, they definitely don't have trouble taking objectives. That's for sure. Now, what's this Laffy W-15 TCC
Yeah. So this says rear facing medium anti tank gun.
on an
So
open platform?
it's a soft skin,
Yeah.
6 plus. So medium anti tank gun. That's probably not bad for the points, really.
No. And
No.
it's relatively mobile.
Yeah. Um, Something you'd park at the edge of the table and fire, and then if you need to adjust fire, you can move it. Uh,
Right.
it does have to be backed up, so moving it will be a little harder because you can't make a turn backing up.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, one thing that's interesting about this, so I would compare this to the Armadillo. In
Okay.
so the British Armadillo is an armored truck with a heavy
Right.
auto cannon. So it has to be, it's rear facing as well. So when you
Okay.
rear face that 7 armored vehicle, it's now a 5 because the
Hmm.
shots coming in are going to be hitting the rear.
Okay.
Whereas the soft skin is a 6 all the way around. So the soft skin's actually in a better position than that armored vehicle. Although,
How
they
about
don't have to worry about small arms fire, but if you're probably not getting hit by small arms fire, because it's 24 inches. You're probably
well,
going to
being an open back, if you take small arms fire, it's that whole open top rule there. You're taking pins.
pins. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it is
So I
what it
would
is.
park a lieutenant next to this thing to keep it active.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now that's a tank. So would it benefit from lieutenant?
Yeah. 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 The
I didn't
lieutenant
think
on the
tanks could
ground,
benefit from
he can
officers.
affect any unit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and also on that note for version 3, there was a question about whether a platoon commander for the infantry platoon can affect an engineer platoon, and they absolutely can. So, doesn't matter. They can, give their bonus to any platoon unit on the table.
Okay.
Yeah. And their logic to that was it would get real complicated if you had to try to keep track of what units were in what platoon and what lieutenant could affect. It would just slow the game down. So they just said, if he's lieutenant, he can snap to any unit on the table
Okay.
or give him a
That'll
bonus.
make right. That makes things easier.
Yeah, probably the
Um.
only one that won't do that will be the tank platoon commander, the command
Right.
vehicle. Um, I'm sure a command vehicle can't snap to an infantry unit. It can probably only affect the tanks.
Well, and that was the thing is,
Vehicle.
I'm thinking that infantry officers won't be able to affect the tanks either.
Well, I believe they will. In version 2, they could. You could snap to a
Okay.
tank that's sitting next to you. Um,
Okay.
but then maybe they'll change that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. We got to remember that in the intel drops, we've only seen really just summaries of the rules, and I don't know if anybody's seen the picture of John Stollard holding the new rule book, but it's pretty hefty.
So it is
So again,
369 pages long.
wow,
Yeah, I heard that the other day. So I think the original rule book's like 206 or 220, something like
sounds
that.
right. Right.
That
Now, in some fairness, they've added a section with the they've expanded the special rules section,
yeah,
and it sounds like they've expanded the army section to cover a few more things as
yeah.
well.
And
Still
there's
not
an
a full
index.
army book.
Yeah, it actually has an
Sir?
index in the back that's useful.
Yes. Yeah, gotta love the index. That's gonna
Yeah.
help a lot. I know we use the index for black powder a lot.
That because everything they've been doing is trying to speed the game up, make it more fun. The index will speed the game up. When you have to look something up, instead of just bogging the game down, trying to flip through the pages in the book to find something, you're going to find it like that. And then problem
Okay.
solved, and you move on.
That's right. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let's see here.
it's got a
So
what is this? It's a transport.
it is, and it says it's wheeled and it's armored. Hang on just a minute.
Wow.
I don't have that handy. Yeah, so it's an armored wheeled transport that the French had.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's one of the
that's
things that people don't talk about a lot. The high level discussion of France in 40 because they got bounced so quickly, but the tools they had. I mean, they had potentially they could potentially have had a very strong mechanized infantry army. They could have. They certainly had some good infantry, as you see from the Senegalese and the Foreign Legion. Which I mean, the Germans commented more than once on how tough the Foreign Legion and colonial troops were. And
yeah,
I know I've seen again in Squad Leader where these colonial troops could be really tough to deal with. The French near the end of the fighting were finally beginning to get their hands around using combined arms very well. They didn't do bad. I mean, when they met the Germans in Belgium, both sides lost about the same number of tanks, but the French retreated.
yeah.
So French equipment was not bad for the time. For 1940, it was pretty solid. And so, I've said before, and I don't think version 3 is going to disabuse me of this notion. I'll play the French anytime. The points for the French really seem like they get it right. I know in our event, it was a French army that won.
Yeah, he
So
did.
the French are definitely competitive. I
Was
think
it?
even without their free howitzer, they're very competitive.
Did he have a Vichy French, or what? What was his army? Do you remember?
I don't. I know he was looked like he was using standard French equipment, so it looked like it was the 1940.
Okay.
But man, he had the Char B with the light on a tank gun in the turret and the
Yeah.
medium howitzer in the hull, and that means he's able to cover at least two axes of advance. And I want to say it's got a coax beside the light in a tank gun, which is five dice in the current system, three dice in the new system, which is still not bad. Still
Yeah.
not bad at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll play French anytime. So next one is the next platoon.
Yeah.
I
So
love how they
I
call this.
see
Go
here
ahead.
he's actually got his name here in this one, so it's Alex, not Andy.
Okay.
Yeah. Second lieutenant. Now this one's regular, so
Yes.
that's interesting.
This looks like it's more of an assault platoon. You see that engineer section down there?
Yeah. So he's got an engineer. Maybe he's wanting to
Right.
use this officer to help them, move along. I
That's
don't
what I'm
know.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the engineers, they got the flamethrower.
Yum.
Were they veteran or regular? I didn't see it.
Veteran.
They were veteran. Okay. Yeah.
They are veteran. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Sure enough. Yep. Rifle, pistol, and flamethrower.
Yeah.
All the fun stuff.
Okay. And looks like just a plain old regular squad of infantry,
Polui. Yeah.
just hold objectives. He's got another medium mortar, inexperienced. So yeah, if you're gonna run them inexperienced, you gotta have at least two.
Ah,
Just got some redundancy once
crossfire.
you kill. And so tanks, you were talking about the Char B. He's bringing the Char 2C.
Which
This is
I
the
think
this,
is the bigger one that
oh
actually didn't in history didn't actually see
yeah,
action.
they made five of them, and I think the Germans actually captured some of them. They stopped the train
Right.
that they were on, but never saw
Either
combat.
capture. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
they were more of a propaganda weapon, trying to make they would parade them around and say, "Look what we got." And
That's right. That's
this is a
right.
behemoth sitting on the table. I mean, if
Yes.
you ever seen one on a bolt action table, they're huge,
Yeah.
and there's a ton of machine guns on it. So it's like the Char B, but it's got a lot more.
Yeah.
You got the
And
same.
he
Well,
took
you
it
got
as regular, which I agree.
I don't
Okay.
think it has the anti-tank gun. I think it's just the howitzer, but then there's machine guns all over it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's slow and
Right.
it's 9 armor. and I want to say this maybe one of the tanks is 9 armored all the way around. I'm not sure if this one is or not.
I don't see anything special to say, to say that it is, so it may not be.
Yeah,
I know the Char B was armored heavily all the way around,
yeah,
but yeah, I wouldn't want to be, again, it's not a panther and it's not a tiger, but that's not always what you need to get the job done. And this thing can, if you look at the arcs, you can literally park this thing in the middle of the board and it'll cause trouble everywhere.
yeah,
I mean, it can flat throw down some firepower. And then that 360 light howitzer, again, it's not going to take out your heavy tanks, but it'll make your half tracks and your Suskins think twice.
yeah.
Not a
We can
bad list.
fire so many ways too.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to knock one of these out one time with a bazooka team, and I got the shot off, but it didn't damage it. And in turn, it started shooting at me the next turn, and I had to keep going down to survive. And eventually, it wiped my bazooka team out because I couldn't move. If I moved, I was going to get annihilated. I just had to go down,
Yeah.
small team down, try to keep from getting killed.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. What you need there is to get that first dipole so you can snap another shot off and take your chances.
Yeah,
But wow. And then there's another carrier, probably to carry those assault engineers.
yeah. And this one doesn't have. It does have a forward-facing LMG, so
Yeah.
60.
And the other one did too.
Yeah,
Let me bounce that back here. So the other one did too,
yeah,
and probably carrying those. That one is probably intended to carry those singlees and get them in close where they can actually attack somebody. So that may be the offset to the regular.
yeah. I wouldn't think that they would assault with the Legionnaires because they don't have submachine guns, so they're not tough fighter.
Nope.
Stubborn's only going to help you against like HE hits um, to survive that,
Yeah.
where you lose half the squad, but and ignore pin markers. Um, probably the veteran. They probably just keep them taking rifle shots. They'll lose a guy here and there, and
Yeah.
stay on the board. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Another Army list. Thanks to Alex for letting us have this to kind of look over and
Yep.
talk about. Version 2 continues through the end of September, folks. So if you'd like us to look over your Army list, you can reach out to Randy or you can reach out to me. I will put the Pulaski's Guard email in our discussion in our comment section. You can always send it there, and I'll pass it on to Randy. So I think that's about everything we have for the day. But we're always happy to look at Army lists because they're such a critical part of our experience here with Bolt Action. Again, as we continue to grow the channel, and thank you. I think we're up to like 78, 77 subscribers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, share, subscribe, and if you'd like to see us cover some things, and it doesn't just necessarily have to be Bolt Action. We would ask probably that it should be Warlord or War Games Atlantic. For right now, that's the two companies I'm most familiar with. But definitely anything Bolt Action you'd like to see us cover. We could even take a poke at covering Conflict 47 since I play around with that. And definitely Black Powder. Randy and I are both big Black Powder players,
Yeah.
especially the Epic game. So there you go. This channel's here for you guys and here to share gamer news. So keep it coming. Be watching for more interviews. I just dropped an interview with Dom Trascotti out of Florida, who heads up HMGS South. Be watching for that in your feed, and get a feel for why you should go to Hurricon. So there you go. And with all that being said, again, one more time, do the YouTube things, like, click share, subscribe, pass the word to your friends. Randy, anything for the folks?
I think that's it. My feet are killing me.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah.
All right, thank y'all.
Yep.
Bye bye.